I got all I want, and I got all I need, and I got everything. I got you and me. All I want, I got all I need.
Marriage is the best. Today we are going to talk about our year in review for the Marriage is the Best podcast 2025. And we're excited about it. We're excited about walking through kind of what we've done this last year, some of the topics and things that we've gone over, just kind of celebrating that and also giving you all the numbers. Today is a numbers podcast. So if you are like my wife, you may or may not want to cover your ears for this one. However, as we kick off the new year, we are also kicking off our very first Marriage is the Best giveaway. The Great Date Night Giveaway. So it's basically a chance at free money for you, our wonderful listeners. And the reason we're able to do this giveaway is we received an incredible sponsor who is offering a $100 prize so that you and your spouse or significant other can enjoy a date night. All you have to do to enter is leave a stellar 5-star review on the Apple Podcast app on our show, Marriage is the Best, and then pop back over to Spotify and comment on this episode with your favorite line that you used in your review. That way we can kind of verify which reviews go with which people. The timeline for this event or the giveaway will run from January 12th, the morning that this podcast will air, all the way to the 25th, which is the Sunday that follows the Sunday after the 12th. And then we will hope to announce the winner on the episode that airs on the 26th. And you can see the show notes for legal description and disclaimer for the giveaway. So we are super grateful for our wonderful sponsor who very generously is going to make a very fun date night for free for one of you. So thank you so much for being a part of that. This year was crazy. It was a learning year. I learned a lot this year. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my wife. I learned a lot about raising children. We learned a lot about raising children. We experienced a lot of ups and downs in the year 10 of our marriage. We are actually going to be celebrating our 11th anniversary on Friday of this week. And so if you think of us, you should think of us on Friday. I think we're going to dinner. We're not going to go on a week-long cruise like last year because it's just the 11th anniversary. You know what I mean? And we did get a weekend away in December. So that's kind of what we're transferring that one over into the January. So on the podcast this year, Bex got to be on 4 different times, which was really fun. She got on for year 2, year 3, the 10-year anniversary podcast, and one other one that I didn't write down for whatever reason. We also had Julie on and Josh. Those were our 2 other guests for the year, and they got to tell their marriage stories. And that was really fun. It was fun to talk with them. It was fun to kind of explore them as people, what they experienced, how their experience of marriage went. They weren't necessarily really like happy, uplifting, but they were real. And Marriage is the Best is about presenting real marriage stories, as well as mostly Peter being a talking head and bouncing up and down. And I guess talking head is more like news anchor. So I guess I'm not anything like that because I don't really do anything like that. In fact, there's no cameras in here and it's very comfortable. I like that very much. This year we covered a lot of topics. We talked about setting up the marriage system. That was kind of I guess I would say that was our marriage theme for 2025 was setting up the marriage system in a sustainable manner. I probably said the word sustainable a ridiculous amount of times. And I don't even know. It would be funny to have a count. I wish that there was a way to get a count. Maybe someday. We also covered a lot of general marital topics, a lot on conflict. We talked about finances. We covered deep emotional topics such as shame and guilt. Covered some cultural topics such as fixing your spouse or extramarital relationships. We even talked about the new Superman and Lois Lane that relationship. That was kind of fun, interesting one. Personally, I feel as though the podcast has hit both Becca and I in both positive and negative ways. Obviously, the negative is just kind of the time commitment. I have to kind of remind Becca on Sundays at some point, like, hey, I do have to record a podcast at some point today. And usually she looks at me and is like, oh, yeah, right. Oftentimes that's because there's so much going on in our house that the idea of someone having a responsibility other than just taking care of the kids in the house and all the other things that we take care of all of the time is a little bit ridiculous. And so that's kind of it is a draw on energy a little bit on that Sunday evening. So when I'm doing this, obviously we're not able to connect. So it's been interesting to make sure that we're balancing pouring into our marriage and not at all giving up any of our marital intimacy in order to do the podcast. I think it would be ridiculous and mostly ridiculous to run a marriage podcast about real marriage while also neglecting the real marriage that we are a part of. And so we try and not do that as much as we possibly can. A lot of positive has come out of doing this podcast as well. I've found a lot of purpose in putting my mind on marriage and marriage topics and marriage concepts and talking through there's something about just kind of verbalizing your ideas that makes them more real. And I have found that my ideas around marriage and counseling and marital practice and systems and development in this new year have become more refined over time. And I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to just kind of sit down, think through, walk through, talk through all the wonderful parts of marriage, as well as be very real and authentic and talk through all the difficult things. There's been a consistency, a stick-to-itiveness, if you will, that I've never experienced before in any other season of my life. I have never done something for this long, and I've never had this kind of passion for anything. And I am really passionate about and love talking about marriage. And the idea that we've been doing this for over a year, I think this is going to be the 63rd episode, is just really cool. And that I think has helped me as kind of a person to kind of prove myself that, I can stick to something and overcome the exhaustion that I feel on most times that I'm recording and overcome the fear and anxiety of releasing something out into the world and all of those good things, which happen on a daily basis. A lot of mindfulness, I think, has been a helpful thing that I've had to think about what we're doing in our marriage on a really intentional level so that I can talk about it on a really intentional level. And I've also had to be really mindful that I'm not talking about things on the podcast and then not doing those things in my marriage, right? I'm saying go on date nights. We have a bi-weekly date night that we've got set up and spend a really good chunk of time doing kind of internal date nights on weeks that we're not out and about. We hit our quota for 2 nights away twice a year last year. This year is going to be a little bit funny, but I think, it'll be a little bit different this year. We'll probably get something more close to like summer and end of year, but we're going to hit it again. And 20 minutes, we spend 20 minutes regularly connecting with one another, talking through life, updating stress. And now it's not all the time and it's not every day. And there are days that we just melt into the sofa and don't want to do anything else. But we do make a very intentional effort to do the things that we ask of other people. And I think that authenticity is really important. It's the kind of person that I want to be. And it's also the only way that marriage tends to grow and work, is that if we are putting in the work. So that has been really helpful. The idea specifically, I think that I would highlight from 2025 that I think impacted our marriage the most was actually the episode way back when, marriage and mental load. Mental load is such a hot button and culturally relevant topic right now. But I found that the more in tune I am with Becca's mental load, which is not that in tune, but the more I am working on that, the better she is feeling about my engagement and my seeing her and hearing her and understanding and knowing. That's the Shukum model that we talked about this last year. She feels that when I am in tune with her mental load, with what's going on in her world. And that's really important to me. It's really important to me that she feels seen and heard and understood and known, and that our intimacy continues to grow. So I think that and not being aware of the mental load would be a huge detriment to our marriage moving forward. And we're actually going to talk about that on the developmental side of the conversation as we go. We're going to probably get to that in either phase 3 or phase 4. So we talked about guests already, and money. We have earned 0 cents, which is fine. And it's to be expected. We are early. We are amateur. We're figuring this stuff out. We are releasing, weekly podcasts, and we've made nothing. $0. I think the only reason that I put this into the year in review is just to let you know, that this isn't I guess the reason that we're doing it is not for money, but also for in the future, if we start making some money, I'll just let you know what we're making at that point as well. And it would be interesting to kind of compare and contrast as the years go along. Like this year we made X and next year we'll make Y and whatnot. So we do have an option to monetize on the Podbean. That's our distributor website. I talked about that last year. So we can turn that on if we wanted to, and they'll run ads on the podcast. I think that's how that works. You might have to have a certain level of downloads in order for that to happen, I'm sure. But it is an option, and it's something that we could consider into the future. So not that we will never have any ads or never do any of that stuff. But for now, I hope that you enjoy and recognize that you don't have to listen to ads while you're listening to us. Unless Spotify forces you to. I don't think I've ever run into an ad while I've been listening on Spotify. So hopefully you haven't either. That's good. We are still considering into the future. We're talking about what's coming up. We're considering doing a Shopify store. I have some idea. Randomly, I'm struck with ideas for mugs and shirts and caps and stuff like that. And I think it'd be kind of fun to have just another creative outlet for people to merch it up. But we haven't released that. I did actually build a website. I don't have it online, but I did build it up using AI, obviously. And I also built up a store, but I didn't put that one online either. So it's in the works. There are things that I was trying out, and okay, how far can I get into the Shopify world, and how far can I get into the website building world? So none of that has come to fruition, but we'll see. No promises, obviously, but if something like that happens, that's great. We want to thank you. We want to thank you individually and specifically being you. We want to thank you for taking the time to listen. We thank you for even spending just a small amount of time with us last year. We are so grateful that people have tuned in. And I guess I am so grateful for people and that you guys have tuned in. I'm grateful for all of the people who emailed us this last year. I think we've received 4 or 5 different emails, which has been super encouraging. We thank you for everybody who has hit the 5 stars on the Spotify or 5 stars on the Apple podcast so far. We're really grateful for your involvement, your engagement. And we hope that the reason that you've listened, and that the reason maybe that you'll continue to listen, is that you love your marriage and you want your marriage to be the absolute best that it can possibly be. And we hope that we play a small role in making that happen and inspiring you to continue to turn toward your spouse. So all of that to say, these 15 minutes, all of that was just the intro to the numbers. So this is the point when you should turn it off if you're not a numbers person. So we're just going to kind of go through quickly the numbers that are available to us on Podbean. And if any of them are wrong, then that's on Podbean. So in total, in 2025, we received 2,700 downloads, 2,700 downloads over the course of the year. That is pretty fun. And then I believe that there were 2,200 listeners. I don't know what that means. I don't think that it means 2,200 people listened and 2,700 podcasts were downloaded, because I don't think that there were that many unique listeners. I'm pretty sure that those downloads probably came from much less than 2,200 people. But if 2,200 people actually listened, that would be nuts, because that's a lot of people. And 2,700 downloads, like you think about scale, right? 2,700, I guess it depends on like how you're looking at that. If I have $2,700, I'm excited. If there's a Lego set with 2,700 pieces, that's fantastic. 2,700 opportunities for learning and growing in your marriage, that's pretty cool. That's really kind of exciting. So you go on YouTube and a small video can have, tens of thousands of views or impressions or whatever. And so it doesn't feel in our world, when you compare it to, say like a Twitter or a YouTube or some other place. But I guess I'm just really grateful that we got to speak into however many people's lives 2,200 listeners actually is, and that the podcast was downloaded that many times. So if you're like listening to this, you're like, wow, that's really impressive. I don't know if it's as impressive as you think. And if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, that's all, then you're like, I guess I think that's totally fair. So by region, obviously the vast majority of people that have listened are in the United States, or the vast majority of downloads. 2,574 of the 2,700 downloads were in the United States. We did have 26 downloaded in the United Kingdom, 22 downloaded in Canada. Thank you, Canada. I appreciate it. 11 in India, 10 in Australia, and then there are 7 countries that had between 9 and 3, and 22 other countries that had between 1 and 2. So I don't know how or why that would happen, but I think that VPNs might be involved in some of these. That's just what, like, when I see these, I think, man, that sounds like a VPN. So yeah, those are the regions that have downloaded the pod. The platforms, the iOS system that had the vast majority. So that's obviously Apple. So that's 1,902 of them came from Apple, 405 from Android, 188 from Mac, 85 from Chrome, 74 from Windows, and 24 from Alexa. So I don't know how you get this podcast on Alexa, but that's cool. If you did that, good work. But most of us are using our Apple devices, like most people in the world, even though that's not what the numbers say. That is an ode to most people that actually don't have Apple phones across the world. But anyways, most of our listeners are in the US anyway. So anyways, moving on. Spotify was the number one source for the podcast to be downloaded. So 1,240, which is not half of the episodes, were downloaded through Spotify. 982 of them through Apple, 166 through Chrome, which is a web browser. Podbean, actually, there were 68 downloads from Podbean. And then there was a smattering of other ones, Overcast, iHeartRadio, the actual website, Alexa again, obviously the 24 through Alexa. And then there was a bunch of other ones that had a very small amounts of downloads for the sources. Monday and Tuesday are the biggest days that people are downloading. So that's like, on average, I think Mondays had like 15 on average downloads or something like that. So yeah, that was kind of fun. By performance, within the first 7 days, there were a few that performed like much better than the rest. And this is just like downloaded within the first 7 days. So like episode number 20, Don't Overload Your Marriage. That one did pretty well. It took off, had a good chunk of downloads within the first 7 days. extramarital relationships, number 25. Julie's episodes and Josh episodes, both were downloaded pretty well in those first 7 days. The changes we've made, number 37. Marriage counseling and balance, number 45. The conflict episode, and then emotional ownership, 47 and 54, respectively. So those are kind of the best episodes, the episodes that did the best within the first 7 days of being released. So the best episode, the one that was downloaded the most for the year, was episode number 34, which was the interview with Julie, which is so fitting and wonderful. That one was downloaded 83 times. And then the worst for the year was actually preparing your marriage for the holidays, which was something that we did in 2024. The top 10 performing podcast episodes, going from worst performing to best performing for this year, was year 2 was number 10, downloaded 62 times. Number 9 would be Josh's episode, which was downloaded 63 different times. In slot number 8 is extramarital relationships. Then in 7 would be Let's Have Some Fun, downloaded 64. A tie for the next 2, which was Marriage Counseling and Balance, and then the Shame and Fear Cycles. Both were downloaded 65 times. Marriage on Hard Mode, 69. The intro for the podcast was downloaded 71 times. And then When Marriage Is Not the Best was downloaded 74. So that just kind of gives you kind of an understanding, or a little bit of an understanding of what does it look like for an amateur podcast to get downloaded after releasing 63 episodes and being, out there for a couple of years. I don't know how. I have no idea whether that compares or doesn't compare, nor am I super interested in comparing. I just like numbers. I think that they're fascinating, and I think that they tell a fun story. So there's more numbers to come. We're going to jump into kind of like the numbers for like the actual time that we have out there. So here we go. So we have 53 total episodes were released in 2025. Weekly episodes, and then 1 extra, which was actually the Marriage in Review podcast. It was released on a Thursday last year, and so that was kind of like a double up. The shortest podcast was 7 minutes long. That is the Positive Interaction Generator. I don't know if you've checked that one out. If I were you, I wouldn't go and check that one out. although we did get an email on it that said that they liked it and they wanted a copy of the text of it. So it was kind of a silly idea. I don't know. You can listen to it if you want. It's only 7 minutes long, but I don't think you'll last 7 minutes on it. The longest podcast that we did was 91 minutes long, so an hour and a half. And that was pretty fun. It did skew the rest of the data a little bit. So it's a bit of an outlier. But that 91 minutes long one was Josh's episode. And he was like the 9th most downloaded episode. So that was kind of fun. On average, and this is where the skew comes into play, but on average with that 91, pulling it a little bit to the right, the average length of the podcast is 34 minutes. The median and mode were both 31. So if you're numbers people and you know what that means, good on you. The standard deviation is 13.99, quartile 1. So, yeah, the quartile 1, so that's like 75% of 75% of the podcast episodes were more than 26.5 minutes long. This is how much I know of statistics. Quartile 3 represents that 25% of the podcast episodes were greater than 41 minutes. Is that kind of median, which is the 31 number. And then the 2 outliers were 66 and 91. I believe that 66 was actually the conflict episode. So I rambled for an hour and 6 minutes on conflict. And then the 91 minute long one. The total runtime in 2025 for the podcast in total was 1,808 minutes, which is 30 hours. I think 30 hours and 13 minutes. And then the total runtime of the podcast year to date, like 2024 and 2025, is 2,188 minutes, or 36.5 hours, basically. So that is the gist. That's the whole. Those are the numbers. I hope that you enjoyed. If you enjoyed listening to the numbers, I am shocked and also blessed that you like numbers as much as I do. If you want to hear about any other numbers or have any questions, we want to be available to answer those questions. So feel free to shoot us an email at marriageisthebest@yahoo.com. Definitely enter that sweepstakes giveaway, because you could win $100. And all you have to do is leave a stellar 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and comment the phrase that you used, your favorite phrase, the most fantastic phrases that you used within your review. We are super grateful for you. Thank you so much for listening. This is the
all I need.